Hello and welcome to Mastering Microsoft Excel video series. This is video number 3 in which we are going to discuss about navigating and selecting the data. Without much ado, let's get into the Excel with the data and start understanding the very important keyboard shortcuts which you should be familiar before you actually start working on the data. So in the last video, we understood how do you create a report manually, format it and set it up for the printing. But now that is for the data which you are creating it. What happens if the data is coming from somebody else or it's a downloaded data? First, you need to understand the data boundary levels, and you need to be comfortable in selecting the data, copy pasting it to the places wherever you want it, and moving between the sheets you should be comfortable. So these are very common actions which you will be doing in Excel world, like navigating inside the data, selecting the data, copy pasting the data, moving between the sheets, moving between the files. These are very common actions. So how much ever you're comfortable and master these shortcut keys in the Microsoft Excel, your life will be really comfortable while you work on a humongous data or a large data. Yeah. So let's get into the Excel screen for this video and we'll start working like usual. So we will have the link for downloading this Excel which I'm using in this video, and you will also have the quiz for the particular video. And additionally, to help you people, I will also provide you a PDF which will have the list of shortcut keys which we are discussing in this video, so that you can use it while you're practicing it. Yeah, so let's get into the Excel for this video and let's start working on it. Okay, so if you look at this Excel, what we are looking at right now, it has 3 sheets in it, and each sheet has a kind of a data. So you can see each sheet is having a different data for us to test all these keys. First of all, when you get the data from a system or from another individual, so how do you know how many rows and columns this data is up to? Now, this is a very small data in terms of column, but in terms of row, I do not know. So how do I move inside a data? So the shortcut key which you need to be using is Control and all these arrow keys: top arrow, bottom arrow, left arrow, right arrow. So this 4 keys will help you to move inside the data. Watch it. I am clicking any cell inside the data, Control key and down arrow key I'm pressing, which takes me to the last row of my data. So in one go, I can say, okay, this data is almost 5,000 rows of data, including the header. It is 5,001 rows of data. Now, Control and right arrow will take me to the last column of my data, which tells me that this data is going up to H column. So now I want to come back. So Control and up arrow, and to come back to the first column of my data, Control and left arrow. So this is what I was talking about. Control and arrow keys will help you to navigate. Okay, while you practice, check this out in each of these sheets what I've given to you. Now the next key which you should be available, again it's a set of 4 keys. Last time I told you Control and arrow keys, which is purely for navigation. You can use the same key along with the shift key, then it will do the selection. For example, I am selecting the first PO number under the PO number column, and Control Shift down arrow. So now you can watch it. It has selected all the PO number from the cell where I started till the last row of my data. Yeah, Control Shift down arrow. Now let us say I want to select this row, okay, only up to the last column of my data. So first I select the serial number, which is 4987, Control Shift right arrow. So it goes and stops at that particular point where my data is ending. So now this is a very beautiful key and very important key while you are going to learn formula like VLOOKUP and HLOOKUP or XLOOKUPs. we might have to come to a different file and go to the particular sheet and select the data. So if you're going to rely on mouse, then it is really difficult when you handle a large volume of data. The keys, whatever I'm discussing, might not be that much relevant if you are managing like very small data like 20 rows and 5 columns, not beyond that. Then it is purely optional. But the person who's going beyond that 25 rows or 15-20 columns, then shortcut keys are a huge help. Now let's go to the top, control and up arrow. I can use this a little smart. See, in the last video I told you if you want to select the data, you can press Control A. So now I press Control A, that selects the entire data. I can do the same selection with the Control Shift and arrow keys also. Now, what is so interesting about this Control Shift and arrow keys? Watch it. If I want to select the data only from the salesperson column till the bill amount column, this is not possible using Control A. So what does Control A does? It selects everything. Control A stands for all. But when I want to be selective, in that case, these keys will play a crucial role. So let's see how we can do it. So I click on the salesperson heading, Control Shift down arrow, and then right arrow. Control Shift down arrow and then right arrow. So now you can see we have done the selection right from the salesperson name column till the last column of my data. Now that's the importance of these Control Shift and arrow keys. Now I can be selective furthermore, that watch it. I'm going to do this process again. So I want to click on the salesperson heading one more time, Control Shift down arrow. Now let's say I don't want to go up to the end column, then I can press I can just hold the Shift key. So let me repeat it. Sorry, I went a little fast. So I click on the salesperson heading, Control Shift down arrow, then I take the fingers off the keyboard. Now pressing only the Shift key and press the right arrow once. Every time when you press the right arrow, you keep moving one column extra in your selection. So left arrow, shift left arrow, you can reduce one column in your selection. So some people use this based on their requirement. Yeah. So I can do this in different ways. A Control Shift down arrow, Control Shift right arrow, then Shift left arrow, right arrow. You can, in order to be selective, Shift up arrow, Shift down arrow. You can be selective in your selection using these keys. So totally we have discussed 8 keys. One is Control and 4 arrow keys, which is basically for moving inside. Control Shift and arrow keys is basically for selecting the data. Okay, now how do I move between one sheet to another sheet? So I have 3 sheets here, sheet 1, sheet 2, sheet 3. So how do I move from one sheet to another sheet? So let's say I have a data in the sheet 2. I want to select the data in the sheet 2. So I'm in the sheet 1. Control page down. There is a key in your keyboard called page down. So when you press Control and page down, in some laptops you might have to press Control function page down. So when you press Control page down or Control function page down, it takes you to the next sheet. Control function page up, it takes you to the previous sheet, or Control page up and Control page down. So page down is always towards the right direction, which is next. Page up is always towards left direction, which is previous. Okay, so Control function page down or Control page down, Control page up or Control function page up, which is basically to move between the sheets. So let's say I want to select the data in sheet 3. So first step, I need to go to sheet 3. Now some of you might have a doubt, Hari, you have 3 sheets. Why don't you simply take the mouse and then simply click on the sheet 3? I completely understand and agree. Yes, absolutely, you can do that. When your sheets are very less, you don't need to use or remember this control page up and page down. But I'm talking about the files which are having around 300 sheets or 24 sheets or 30 sheets, each sheet given for each day of the month or each day of the year. Yeah. So each quarter of the year, each month of the year. So it depends on the data what you have in that file. So I am taking the worst case scenario the complicated scenario, so that when you learn these keys, it will be useful at any situation. In certain situation, you can be optional. In certain situations, it will be useful for you. So now first thing, I want to go to sheet 3 in order to select the data in the sheet 3. So control function page down, because I have to move towards the right side. So I have to press until I go to the sheet 3. So control page down, don't continuously press it. It's like one stroke. So control, hold the control, press the page down once, we'll go to the next. Page down one more time, we'll go to the next. So you have to do it slowly, one at a time, not holding the key continuously. Yeah. All right, we are in the sheet 3, but I want to make sure that my selection starts from the start of the data. So I know that my data is starting from A column. So whenever you want to go to the A1 cell, the topmost cell, A column first cell, control and home key. There is a key in your keyboard called home. Control and home key will take you to that particular, so the A1 cell. So let's try here, control home key. You can see it. It takes me to the control and end key. Control and end key will take me to the last filled cell in the worksheet. Let me repeat it. Control and home key will take you to A1 cell, the first cell of the sheet, not the first cell of the data. We need to be very, very clear on this difference. So if your data is not starting from A column, if your data is starting from B or C, during those times when you press control and home, it will always take you to A1. That is mapped to take you to the topmost cell of the sheet. Whereas when you press control and end key, it goes by the data, not by the sheet. So when you press control and end, it takes you to the last filled cell in the sheet. Yeah. So this is very important keys to make sure that you're selecting the entire data. Why am I saying this is very important? The key which we are discussing. Let me show you a small example here. So let's say I'm going to insert some rows in between my data. Okay. So how do I insert rows in between my data? First, because you want to do insertion of the row, so select the row above which you want to create a new row. You can do this by a shortcut key, or you can do this by the mouse. So when you want to do it to the mouse, just right click. After the selection of the row is done, there will be an option called insert, and it will get inserted. That is one way. I'm going to press Control Z to come back. So if I want to insert a row, I select the row and then right click on the selected row and I go for insert. It does the insertion. Or I can use, I have to select a row and then I have to do it, right? So I will select the row, Control Shift plus. If you're a laptop user, Control Shift and plus. If you're a desktop user, Control and plus. After the row is selected, let me repeat it. You have to select the row first and then try this key. Laptop user, to insert a row, it is Control Shift and plus. For a desktop users, after selecting the row, to insert a row, simply Control and plus sign. Now to delete a row, it is Control minus. So first of all, you have to select the row which you want to delete, Control and minus directly. That will take care of deleting the row. So whether you're a laptop user or a desktop user, the keyboard shortcut is same. So what are the keys we have seen? Control arrow keys, Control Shift and arrow keys, Control page up, Control page down, Control home, Control end, Control Shift plus, Control minus. Yeah. So I think it's a pretty big list, but don't worry. I promised, I will give you the PDF in the description section, which you can download. And while you practice all those keys and see, are you comfortable on those keys? Now, to do it for the column, to insert a column or delete a column, it's the same action. So first you select the column and then Control Shift and plus for insertion, Control minus is for the deletion. So the catch here is the key is same, Control plus and Control minus. Control plus is always for insertion, Control minus is always for deletion. But what you're selecting and calling it is what makes the difference. So when I want to do it in a row level action, I have to select the row and I have to do it. If I want to do a column level insertion or deletion, select a column and then do it. Now for selecting a row and selecting a column, you do have a shortcut. To select a column, watch this. Suppose if I want to select the dealer name column, any one cell I will click on it, control and space bar. Control and space bar will select the entire column. If you want to select a row, shift space bar will select the row. Shift space is for selecting the row. Control and space is for selecting the column. All right. So these are the keys which you should be really good at when you're going to work in the Excel. So practice these keys, whatever I've shared in this video, and be comfortable with it. Like I said, I'll provide the link for this Excel, and just keep inserting rows and columns and then try practicing this key. Before we end this video, I want you to see this very interesting key which only very few Excel users are aware of it. Let me show you what is that key. See, I'm going to insert some rows in some places of my data. Okay, so I'm just randomly inserting some rows and I'm randomly inserting some columns. Remember, I told you to insert a column, you have to select a column and do it. To insert a row, select a row and do it. So now I am creating a problem which is my data is having some blank rows and blank columns. I want to select my entire data. Now here is a catch. When I ask the same question in my training programs, what I hear from the people is they do it like this. They click on the first header, control shift down arrow. It stops at that particular point. Some of the person would say, why don't we use control A? So let's go ahead and use control A. Watch it. So control A or control shift arrow keys will work provided your data does not have any break in between. What do I mean by break? A blank column or a blank row. But blank cells, we are perfectly okay. That's not a problem at all. But blank rows or blank columns, it's gonna hold your selections going properly. So how do we select this entire data, including that blank row and blank column? That's where our magical key comes into play. So first you got to select your first header of your data, then control shift end key. Watch it. Control shift and end key will take me to the last filled cell in the sheet. Let me repeat it. Control shift and end key will take me to the last filled cell in the sheet. From which cell? From the active cell. So we clicked on the first header and then we press this key. Now what's the beautiful part here is I set control shift and end will select from the active cell till the last filled cell in the sheet. Last filled, underline. Now watch closely. We are one row extra and one column extra. Why so? Now remember that we did an exercise of inserting a row and inserting a column. So Excel remembers that there was a data earlier and now the user has deleted it. So it will not forget that. So it will still remember it. So people use this in two smart ways. One, when somebody is sending a report to me, when I press this control shift and end key, if it goes beyond the data, then I will understand the user has deleted some data before sharing to me. This is not the entirety of the data. Second thing is this will also tell me that there was something the person has deleted when we before sharing to us, they have deleted it. Or it will also help us to make sure that even those blank rows and blank columns are also allowed while you're filtering and sorting the data. So in the coming up videos, we will be talking about filtering and sorting. So those times, this is very crucial key. So I want you guys to practice all the keys what we have learned in this video again and again and be comfortable and confident on those keys so that when you join me for the upcoming videos, you will feel very comfortable to work along with me and you can work in my speed as well. Yeah, so do remember to practice. I will also provide you the quiz and I'll provide you the PDF for the shortcuts what we have discussed in the video along with this Excel for your practice. Yeah, so we'll meet again in the next video with the other inputs. Until then, take care of yourself. Signing off, Hariharan.